Greetings, my name is Tedla Melaku, and I am a writer, author, and partially a human rights activist with an academic background in philosophy and social science. I am making this video to continue to spread global awareness about the Amhara genocide in Ethiopia. I am going to speak in Amharic for only just less than a minute in order to tell my Amharic speaking audience to share this video. ጤና ይስጥልኝ። ይህን ቪዲዮ በእንግሊዘኛ የማደርገው ዓለም አቀፍ ማህበረሰብ ጋር ለማድረስ በአማራ ህዝብ ላይ ስለሚፈጸመውና ከኋላ ያለውንም ዓላማና ይህን ርዕሰ ጉዳይ በአጠቃላይ ግንዛቤ ለመስጠት ይሆናል። ስለዚህ በቻላችሁት መጠን ይህን ቪዲዮ ሁሉም ቦታ አሰራጩት። አመሰግናለሁ። So the Amhara people are an ethno-linguistically Semitic people who have lived in and contributed to the foundations of Ethiopia. The Amhara's language, Amharic, has served as Ethiopia's official language for the past 800 years at least, and is on the global scene the second most spoken Semitic language after Arabic. The Amharas, historically an important people who have directly contributed to the founding, leading and to founding Ethiopia, leading and protecting Ethiopia for the past many centuries, ever since the time of Ethiopia's foundation. Amhara's ancestors are one of the founders of Ethiopia, not just Amharas, but Amharas are not people who recently came to Ethiopia. Amharas have been living in Ethiopia for a very, very long time. For the past half century, Amharas have suffered a deliberate and systemic ostracization, ethnic cleansing, genocide, mass displacements, and Amharas have endured a constitutionally designed social and ethnic engineering that deliberately was put in place to reduce Amharas into a minority identity. Now, this is really important to understand. This, in my analysis, is the reason as to why the genocide is happening. This is the reason that Amharas are a target in the genocide that's taking place in Ethiopia. So this ethnic engineering in Ethiopia was deliberately put in place to reduce Amharas into a minority identity by creating ethnic states where Amharas who live in these ethnic states have no political representation and are ethnically cleansed and genocided without any protection from the law. Now, this has been going on for the past 3 decades. It's been happening for about 30 years. Prior to that, for the past 50 years, Amharas had still been a target because the mentality and ideology that began to take power in Ethiopia ever since the dissolution or fall of the monarchy had this mentality that Amharas were a superior people who had been ethnically oppressing other ethnic groups. So that in itself is not true, and we can address this topic on a different occasion. But this mentality that an entire ethnic group, that's Amharas, oppressing all other ethnic groups is very dangerous and has been very dangerous, resulted in the genocide and ethnic cleansing of Amharas. So the specific system that intends to reduce Amharas into a minority group by committing ethnic cleansing and genocide and internal mass displacements of Amharas. This very specific system has been put to work for the past 3 decades, and the new government, which came to power 3 years ago, instead of ending or stopping this genocidal system that targets Amharas, has worsened it by inviting in this anti-Amhara terrorist organization called the OLF, the Oromo Liberation Front, into the country to roam freely with its arms and with financial support from the Oromo faction in power to further commit genocide and massacres against Amhara people. So ever since the current government came to power, the massacre and genocide of Amharas has intensified even more. And there's no governmental power now in Ethiopia that protects Amharas in these different ethnic regional states from these genocidal attacks. These attacks have been regularly happening and intensifying at a shocking speed, especially in the past 3 years. So now, what are the main 3 areas or epicenters of the Amhara genocide? So in Ethiopia, there are specific regions or ethnic regional states where Amharas are deliberately genocided. And these are the Oromia region and the Benshangul region. And also in the Tigray region, where, for context, upon the creation of the Tigray ethnic regional state by the TPLF, which had been in power in the past 3 decades, areas in northern Amhara were annexed into the Tigrayan ethnic regional state. So as a result of that, ethnic Amharas living in those areas in the northern parts of Amhara had been suffering all this time from what we discussed about earlier, the ostracization, the ethnic cleansing, oppression, and also not being able to be themselves, because being Amhara was regarded as antithetical, and also Amharas were viewed as the enemy. So Amharas in these areas, in Welkite, for example, and Raya, these are places in the northern parts of Amhara, had been suffering from this ethnic system of ostracizing and ethnically cleansing Amharas. So in Welkite, for example, the Maikadra massacre can be mentioned. It was reported by Amnesty International. It was also reported by the Ethiopia's Human Rights Commission. Also was falsely presented as a Tigrayan genocide, where Tigrayan people were genocided in Maikadra. Those who were genocided in Maikadra were ethnic Amharas. So scores of about 1,000 ethnic Amharas of Welkite and Maikadra in the northern parts of Amhara forcibly annexed into the Tigrayan ethnic state for the past 30 plus years, were massacred there. So these 3 main ethnic regional states are where Amharas are deliberately massacred and ethnically cleansed. Now, in order to substantiate our claim, it's important to mention a few sources to back what we're saying for example, in the Oromia region, 4 months ago, The Guardian had quoted Amnesty and published an article saying that at least 54 killed in Wallagga, Ethiopia. Victims, mostly Amhara women and children and elderly people. Also, Task International, TASSC International, also reported the same occurrence. Dozens of ethnic Amharas killed in Western Ethiopia massacre. At least 32 people have died after an attack in the Oromia region of Ethiopia. This was published on SBS. The Washington Post from July of last year, of 2020, had reported or published an article about the reports, saying, and I quote, "Local reports have said that in some places, ethnic Oromo have attacked ethnic Amhara. And in Shashamane town, some people were going home to home, checking identity cards and targeting Amhara residents." And as we speak, in the past few days, and continuously in the past month and prior, Amharas had been being genocided and ethnically cleansed in Wallagga, specifically in the Oromia region. The Oromia region, that's where the OLF, the Oromo Liberation Front, the armed ethnic terrorist organization that targets Amharas, considers itself a mortal enemy of Amhara people, targets Amharas, commits massacres and genocide on Amharas, is based in Oromia region. And that's also where it is believed that the faction, Oromo faction that's in power, is directly linked to the OLF, or Oromia Liberation Front, ethnic terrorist organization, because this organization was not only welcomed into Ethiopia as soon as this current government came to power in 2018, but ever since then has been freely roaming the country, going around in that specific region, targeting Amharas and killing them, and has all the resources and arms, financial, as well as medical and every other supply that it needs in order to commit these crimes against humanity, genocidal crimes against Amhara people. Now, the other region is Benshangul region, in a place called Meteke. For this also, for example, ACLED, an organization that collects data about such incidents, has shown that has actually studied what's been happening there in terms of the Amhara genocide and genocide in general, and massacres and ethnic cleansing in the area, or ethnic clashes, as is reported on different articles. PBS.org published on December 23rd, for example, at least 100 massacred in Meteke, in Benshangul region. These are they were being targeted for being quote-unquote light-skinned. So, and this is where the ethnic identity, where Amharas are considered to be generally lighter than, for example, Nilotic people, where the Gums, for example, the Gums ethnic group, who live in the Benshangul region, for example, are much darker in appearance and also are obviously ethnically different. The Amharas are lighter skinned, are Semitic speaking, so they're easy to target in these areas. because you can easily tell an Amhara by their appearance, or not only Amharas, but other ethnic groups related to Amhara people were also targets in these regions. So now, this was just to substantiate and back up the claim that genocide has been going on, massacres have been happening. These are just very few examples. There are many reports, and most of it say, and this is not necessarily an accurate percentage, but just guessing, more than half, or say 70 to 80%, if not more, of what's happening on the ground is left unreported. This genocidal attack has been ongoing for a while, for a very long time now, and especially the past 2 years has been intensifying. And there's no rule of law in Ethiopia regarding this. There's no government in Ethiopia that intends to protect these citizens, these Amhara citizens. These Amhara citizens are not even considered as citizens in the Oromia region, because they don't even have political representation, where the entire political system in the country is ethnic based. Amharas have no acknowledgement as to their ethnic identity in these regions, like in regions such as Oromia. There are millions of Amharas who live in the Oromia region, and yet there's no government in the region that recognizes their existence. The Oromo identity is imposed on them, regardless of the fact that they're not Oromos. They've been living in the area for centuries. They're not newcomers, and even if they were newcomers, the responsibility of any government, as long as they're Ethiopians, they're not illegal aliens. They're Ethiopians. Their forefathers built this country. They've been living here for a very long time. The regional government is supposed to, its responsibility was supposed to ensure that all Ethiopian citizens are equal under the law. That's not how it works in Oromia. In Oromia, non-Oromos are not considered as humans, basically, because they're targeted, they're massacred, they have no political representation. Amharas are internally displaced in mass out of Oromia region. The entire philosophy is fascistic in the Oromia region. It's not, I shouldn't even call it a philosophy. It's a genocidal ideology. It's extremely ethnic, but it's not just ethnic. It's violent. It's extremely violent, and it targets the ethnic other. So, and this is shocking to the Amhara people. The Amhara people do not have such a culture. Even in the Amhara region, under the current system, the Amhara region has ethnic zones for non-Amharas, where they have an entire administration based on their ethnic identity. So what is the goal of these ethnic terrorists in Ethiopia? What they're trying to do is cleanse Amharas out of several regions, reduce Amharas into an ethnic minority, and try to build an ethnically supreme government, like a fascist government, basically. And this is not an exaggeration. Actually, the word fascist is not even it's not in my opinion very descriptive of the level of violence and atrocity that is committed by this faction that's in power. Ethnic, genocidal, ideologically genocidal, and also genocidal by action, faction in power. So their goal is to create a country where Amharas are either a small minority, or where in a country where Amharas have no say, or a country where Amharas don't even exist, if possible. That's what they're trying to achieve, and what they're trying to achieve that by committing massacres and genocide on Amhara people. That's what they're doing. And this needs to be widely understood, that the faction, the Oromo faction that's in power right now, is not doing anything to stop what's going on. They're in power, but that's not their intent, or intention is not to ensure that all Ethiopian citizens are equal under the law. That's not their intent. To the contrary, what they're doing is collaborating. The Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed, is very politically correct and knows how to sway the Ethiopian people in his speech, deceitful speech in parliament, by talking about Ethiopian unity. But this is only a presentation, but in action on the ground, what is he doing? Not just Ethiopians, but all humanitarians need to ask, what is he and his government doing to protect these citizens, specifically Amharas, who are targeted by an ethnic terrorist organization who has access to money and arms in the country, going around targeting and genociding ethnic Amharas? That's what's going on. Now, it's important that these are not ethnic clashes. This is not primitive tribalism. This is the mistake that a lot of people make. To begin with, Amharas do not have this experience. Historically, Amharas are a very civil people. They're people who contributed to global world civilization in history. There are people who built one of the superpowers of the world in antiquity. Ethiopia's kingdom in the past was one of 4 superpowers in the world, as was written by Manichaeus in the time at the time, 2nd, 3rd century, and even after that, medieval era, Renaissance era, up until the 20th century, Ethiopia was a vibrant nation, and the Amhara people were at the forefront and the leadership. But now, they've become a people who are suffering and enduring genocide in a country where ethnic terrorists, ideologically, very ethno-centered terrorists with intentions of supremacy by genociding Amharas, by massacring Amharas, are in power. That's what happened. And this was designed and deliberately executed. And prior to this, the Amhara leadership was deliberately targeted and massacred at the fall of the monarchy. The monarchy fell during the 17 years of the Derg regime. Also, those who were at the top in power were also ethnic Oromos. This is important to understand, including Mengistu, for example. So during that time, that was a time of transition where Amharas were deliberately, the leadership of the Amharas was deliberately executed and exterminated. And after that, the TPLF, another Tigrayan ethnic communist in its mentality, but not practically. It had other intentions. The TPLF wanted to bring about the liberation of the Tigrayan people, quote unquote, but it was a liberation from Ethiopia, so they're trying to secede. But after that, they created the EPRDF and changed their entire strategy, and they created these ethnic regional states where they were going to attempt to reduce Amharas into ethnic minorities in order for them to become the ethnic supreme faction in the country. So that all these historical developments are what amounted to what's going on right now. This is important to understand, and that's why once the Amhara leadership was completely exterminated, now on the ground you have Amhara farmers, a young generation of Amharas who are not necessarily aware of the historical developments, and then ethnic, ideologically very ethnocentered political entities who are anti-Amhara in power, trying to change the socio-political fabric of the country and trying to deliberately destroy the historical identity that they call Abyssinian Habesha, which is intertwined with the identity of the Amhara people. That's what they're trying to destroy, so that they can build a country that speaks their language and has their identity as supreme and superior over all others by exterminating and burying the Amhara people through massacres and genocide. So that's what's happening. That's what's happening. So please try to spread this awareness to all who care about Ethiopia, friends of Ethiopia, and also lovers of humanity and humanitarians and human rights activists and people who care about truth and people who care about the livelihood of humans and the well-being of humans. Thank you for watching. Share this video and have a blessed day or evening. Thank you.